What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Happy Saturday. We are up in here.
What's going on?
How y'all doing? I got some feedback. I don't know how. Oh, I do know what. Okay. All right. We got that fixed. Got that fixed. Struggle streaming a little bit. How y'all doing out there? Hold on. Let me get some set back up on here on my side because I was over here messing up. But happy Saturday. How y'all doing? Y'all come on in, come on in, come on in. Renee, how you doing? Happy Saturday to you, Renee. I appreciate you as always. Let me get my setup back together. Hold on. Let me do something real quick. Doing a little struggle. All right. We in here. We good. We in here. How y'all doing? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Got a good discussion today. Got a good discussion. What's up, Kush? How you doing, my brother? Thank you. As always, the greatest moderator in the world, my man Kush. What's going on? Y'all make sure y'all hit that like button as you come in, because we got a good conversation today. I know a lot of people came in for the conversation yesterday between Anton Daniels and Corey Holcomb. And like I said, we was having fun yesterday. And it was a good conversation, I believe. Had a lot of people in the building. Of course, we know a lot of people came in for the drama, but had a lot of people in the building. So thank you to everybody who came in the building. And I want to give a special shout out to everybody who faithfully watched this channel, who faithfully watched these lives, who come and support all the time. Thank you. Of course, I got to do my housekeeping. So I want to give a big shout out to hold on, let me open up the right app first. Big shout out to Me Kim. Thank you for all your support. Big shout out to Cheryl Tate. Thank you, Cheryl Tate. Thank you. All my subscribers. Thank you to everybody who subscribed to this channel. All of my channel members. Thank you to all the channel members, everybody who support this channel, who make sure that this channel continues to grow. Thank you to everybody. So we're talking about integration. I found a good conversation. Whose YouTube channel was it? It's the April Chapman. I did a couple videos from April Chapman's YouTube channel, but I found a good conversation on the April Chapman YouTube channel that were talking about civil rights and integration and the effects of civil rights and integration, but they were also breaking it down from their standpoints of how they studied civil rights and integration and how it negatively affected Black America. Now, I will say that I am on the side that, looking back, that integration was not a great thing for Black America. What's going on, Fontelo Tyson? What's going on, Fontelo Tyson? How you doing? Integration, like I said, looking back, hindsight 2020, we can see integration wasn't the greatest thing that happened to Black people. But there's certain analysis that I think need to be had around the conversation to make sure that we really understand that we're not just parroting what other people say, that we are actually putting some critical thinking to why integration was something that was harmful to us. Being next to white spaces or being next to white people, having the privilege to be in white spaces, to be adored by white people. Of course, on Mondays we're reading this book, Miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Woodson. And Carter G. Woodson was calling out a lot of the mindset that goes into the Negroes wanting to be loved by white people, wanting to be admired by white people. Saying that success is measured by how white people, receive you or celebrate you, rather than us setting our own marks. And in this April Chapman conversation, they did ask a good question. They asked a question about what is equality? What is the mark? What is the standard? And of course, we know the standard is whiteness. So one of the things I want to do within this conversation is get us to rethink what equality is, but get us to rethink the mark. Instead of trying to be equal to white people, us setting our own mark for ourselves based off of our own framework, our own frame of reference, not seeing it through a white lens. Because right now, the mark is success, or the mark is equality, or the mark is this level of attainment that is equal to whiteness. And our level of attainment doesn't need to be equal to whiteness. It needs to be what we set for ourselves. So that's one thing that I do want to tackle within this conversation. But I have 3 different conversations that we are going to get into. Like I said, the April Chapman conversation. Then there's a conversation on the Black Video Network YouTube channel. They're asking, was integration good for Black America? And then there's another conversation. It's interesting, this last conversation, because Mark Lamont Hill and a white lady, I don't know her name right now, but they are analyzing the conversation, or some remarks by Trevor Noah regarding integration and him speaking against integration. So these are things that we get into today. So put on your hat, your thinking cap, and all these different things, because we're here to have a good conversation, learn, build. And if you disagree, you disagree, but let's disagree respectfully, even though I know some people that go over their head, but that's how we do it. But I'm gonna start with this first video. This is a 6-minute video of this is in Queens in 1976. What's going on, Nemesis? What's going on, my brother? Queens in 1976, a Black family tried to move to an all-white neighborhood in Rosedale, Queens. And the caption is hard to watch. So you have some young kids giving their experiences of this integration process, of being integrated into this system and how they're being treated. So, because we already know that this system was not built for us. America was not built for us. Even though we say we built it, it still wasn't built for us. These white spaces were not built for us. But yet somehow we like to put ourselves in these white spaces. We like to chase the white space. We like to be the Negro there. We like to be the Negro who was cherry picked out of the crowd that white people love and pat on the top of their head and boost to the next level. So had this conversation in 2025. People catch feelings too damn quick on this. I know, but they gonna be in their feelings today. They're gonna be in their feelings today, because we're having some real conversations today. And in these videos that I picked, they're gonna I guess test your maturity, to see how mature you are to have these conversations and not be emotional, because there'll be things that they say that you may agree with and things that you may disagree with, but you know how it goes. So please, before we get deep into it, actually, before we get deep into it, make sure y'all hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Let everybody know what's going on over here so they can come on in. But before I get into that video, let me go ahead and run my commercial real quick. So I told y'all I was gonna get my merch shop up and running. So I've got it. So I want to show y'all my merch shop. So this is it. So I got some hats. So I got my own The Shoulders of Giants hats available for order. I have shirts. This supposed to be like a canvas, some kind of shirt, jersey shirt. I don't know why they got that design, but it's a jersey shirt. Somebody wanted. Got hoodies, regular shirts, heavy, what they call it, the heavy tee, tees for men's, unisex tees for women, everything. I got a mug. I gotta get this mug too. But this is the merch that I have available. See, I got my mug, I have my hats, and I have my apparel available. And all of that is, the links and stuff are below and connected to the video. So I got my merch shop up and running, been working on that for a minute in the background to get my merch shop up and running. So I got it up and running. So if you want to support the channel and get you some merch, it's all available, links below and links attached to the video. All right. So please support. There are different ways to support within the description, and you can hit the hype button, hit super like button, super chat, all those things to help support this channel as we grow and we glow. So let's get into this video. These young children experiencing the wrath of whiteness because of integration, and then we're gonna get deep into it. But I got to set my foundation. So let's get it.
Since 1960, more than 1 million whites have left New York City. The Black and Hispanic population has grown by almost 1 million, and it's still growing. This is Rosedale, a community of 6,000 families in the far southeastern pocket of the borough of Queens. To the passing eye, it seems quiet. Modest 1- and 2-family homes with fenced-in lawns and tree-shaded streets. The people who live here are almost all white, working-class Americans of Italian, Irish, and Jewish roots. They've worked all their lives to afford these homes. Many came from the inner city, refugees from neighborhoods in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and South Jamaica. Neighborhoods they saw changing and dangerous to live in. These people saved their money and made their escape to what they called the last frontier in New York City, to Rosedale, to what they hoped would be a safe and quiet life. In the early 1970s, a few middle-class black families with very much the same idea in mind began to move to Rosedale too. The whites saw their coming as a threat, the forerunner of more blacks bringing crime, blight, and poor services they had witnessed in other neighborhoods in the city. And the peace of Rosedale was shattered. In 1971, a score of men and teenage boys using axes and picks nearly destroyed a house reportedly bought by a black man married to a white woman. 200 residents stood by and watched. Since then, more than 10 acts of violence have been aimed at the few blacks living in Rosedale. The tension escalated with the coming of the Spencers. In the summer of '74, Tony and Glenda Spencer bought this 7-room house on 136th Avenue. They came to New York from the West Indies after living in London. Spencer, a photo engraver in Manhattan, said they just wanted a good place to live. But some whites suspected them of blockbusting, of trying to force lower property values on Rosedale homes so other blacks could afford to buy here. Before the Spencers moved in, their house was set on fire with gasoline. Wow. They moved anyway. On New Year's Eve day a year ago, while the Spencers and their son slept, a pipe bomb exploded on the porch and smashed through the windows of the house. Police said the bomb was intended to wipe out the family. Attached to the bomb was a note that read, "Nigger be warned. We have time. We will get your firstborn first." It was signed, Viva Boston, KKK.
What's going on, MM? Christina Brown, how you doing? It was always interesting to me. Let me put it back like this. It was always interesting to me, like all of this would be going on, like everything that they said, like they set the house on fire, bombed the house, all these things are going on in this area, and black people are so determined to be in these areas. They're so determined to put themselves and their children and their family in harm's way. That just, looking back, it doesn't make sense to me. That I'm guessing, their mindset was like, we have the right to be here. I get it, but do you need to be there? Like, if you don't be there, will life not work out? Like, is that the mark for what? I guess that was the mark for them to say that they made it, right? Yeah, I'm with you, Renee. Like, I don't get it. Look at how vicious these white people are to keep us out of their neighborhoods, and then we're like, you know what? We gonna be in these neighborhoods. That's crazy to me. But all right. Wait till the kids start talking. Wait till the black kids start talking and talking about their experience. This is wild. Even the kids are into it. Look at it. Even the kids are into it. The kids are vicious. Look at them. Look at them. I would never put my kids in those situations. You crazy.
You better turn around, y'all.
I'm with you, Renee. I want to live with my own people, and I ain't going for what?
We were riding down this block, and these white people start saying, "Get out of here, niggas. Get out of my neighborhood. Don't come to this neighborhood." Then they start hitting on her. Throwing rocks and everything else. Throwing rocks. Because we were in their neighborhood.
We went on a bike hike to McDonald's. We didn't mean to bother anybody.
We had a nice
We saw a
parade.
we saw a gathering, so we went down there to see what was happening. all right. I mean, we didn't bother anybody. We weren't looking for trouble. I never even know people around here were like that. I've never experienced anything like this in my life.
What happened to you?
Nothing happened to me, but this little butt short
What's going
boy
on,
that is
FM?
my size, or little short, and picked up a rock, and he was in the front of all these tall honkies. But he threw the rock. He tried to hit my sister, but he almost hit me about that much away from me. And I was sure wish he had hit me with that rock. I would pick up the rock right next to me and hit him right dead in his face. They always say niggas are doing everything. They always say we're doing everything, right? We didn't, every time the white people come down the block, we don't push them out their neighborhood and throw rocks and start hitting them. We don't bother the white people around our neighborhood.
Mr.
But
Gino,
when we
what's
get in the
going on?
white
That's
neighborhood,
crazy.
they just push us out.
Yeah. Everybody was upset. They said we're nothing, you know, like we're a piece of dirt, dogs. I mean, that's the way you treat an animal. I mean, God, we're human beings. You don't treat other people like that.
But that's how they see us. Exactly what she said. That's how they see us, and we have to understand. But we're fighting to be in their spaces. We're fighting to be in their spaces, and they treat us like animals. They see us as animals, and we fight to be in their spaces. And we gloat about being in their spaces. We gloat about being chosen by them. We gloat about being the favorite Negro of them. We got to wake up. This is crazy. Integration did not help us, in my opinion, to heal each other, then deal with the rest of the world. Hey, we gotta take care of us. We're the only group of people in the world. Well, we're one of the few groups of people in the world who feel like our salvation is within the hands of our oppressors, which is crazy. But let's keep going.
It's just wrong.
Please hit that like button.
Black, white, I don't care. A person is a person. Skin should have no bearing on how you treat a person. That's just wrong.
I hate their goddamn guts.
I can't say that I hate them. I can't say that it's totally the kid's fault. I mean, I'm sure their parents had some bearing on the way they...
We was with you. Now I can't. Hey, look, baby. This is war. See, they didn't understand it then. This is war. This is war. Even if you don't hate them, you got to understand how they come, and you got to move with understanding.
They feel and everything else. I think it's just a system. I don't know. I can't say that I hate them because I don't hate anybody.
Do you forgive them?
No.
Good.
No. Can't take back no hurt.
Right, black love, cool. Hating ain't bad. Like
They gonna always do that. They always spit on.
having a strong disdain for your enemy ain't bad at all. But you still have to move with intelligence. But having a strong disdain for your enemies, of course, nemesis. You already know I was waiting on you. You know I was waiting on you. You know I was waiting on you. Hey man.
It's like you some dogs. They always gonna back on them. Ain't nothing gonna change.
Look here. Look. So once again, that was 1978. It's what they was dealing with in 1978, right? So check this out, right? How we getting into it? First of all, please hit that like button again. Please hit that like button. I appreciate y'all being there. We're setting the foundation, right? Because today's conversation ain't about nostalgia, right? It's not about denying the brutality of segregation, because we know people went through a lot. But it is about asking the question that many people are afraid to ask, honestly, and a lot of people, they getting their feelings about. Did integration actually empower Black America, or did it dismantle the very institutions that sustained us? Once again, did integration actually empower Black America, or did it dismantle the very institutions that sustained us? Right? Because for decades, integration has been treated as the unquestionable victory of the civil rights movement. It is often framed as the movement when Black America finally gained access to equality and opportunity. But history is rarely that simple. And we know American history ain't that simple, right? And when we look closely through primary sources, through words of Black leaders themselves, and through the measurable outcomes, we find a far more complicated story. Today, we're going to examine what integration gave us, what it took from us, and what it replaced Black self-determination with. Think about what I just said. We're looking at what integration gave us, what it took from us, and what it replaced Black self-determination with. Before we go any further, we must make something clear. We got to make sure we all on the same page, right? Ending legal segregation was morally necessary. But I disagree with that statement in these notes. That segregation had a place. Segregation had a place. Our thing was to be able to concentrate on ourselves and build for ourselves. To concentrate on ourselves and build for ourselves. That's what I would say. But Jim Crow was evil, dehumanizing, and violent, right? But as a power, and power is the key word though. Power, right? Those who have the power get to set the rules. Those who have the power get to make the standards. So in these notes, I don't agree with everything. I do have to change that in these notes, guys, because I'm a critical thinker for myself. So I do got to disagree with that part of these notes that I have that's saying that, because segregation had its place. Groups of people come together for their own self-interest. That's natural. Animals do that. That's just what beings do. Beings come together for their own self-interest. Black people, that's what beings do. You come together for your own self-interest, right? But from the beginning, Black leadership was divided on strategy. On one side, there were integrationists like Martin Luther King Jr., W.E.B. Du Bois, and the NAACP leadership who believed that the path forward was full inclusion into American institutions. Their argument was rooted in morality, law, and the promise of American democracy. If segregation was dismantled, equality would follow. That's what they believed. On the other hand, we had Black nationalists, or what they call Black separatists, and the self-determination advocates, figures like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, and later thinkers like Carter G. Woodson, who warned that access without ownership is not freedom. Access without ownership is not freedom, right? It says we do have to be a little careful in our analysis. We do have the benefit of hindsight and relative clarity. The emotional state in considering of Black people back then. You're right. So I'm trying to be careful with my critique and my analysis. And that's why I said, with hindsight, you're right. Because we have all this information, and that's a great point. And you're going to get a star for that. That's a great point because we have all this information to look back upon as well. So thinking about that. But Malcolm X famously said, you don't integrate with the sinking ship, right? What he meant was simple. Entering a system you do not control does not make you powerful. It makes you dependent. That warning matters because when we examine what Black America actually lost after integration, the pattern becomes clear. Before integration, Black America by force, not by choice, built parallel institutions. Remember that. That's a key point because that's another point that's going to come up in this video that we're going to get to next. Integration by force, not by choice, built parallel institutions. Me, Pat, and PC hit on that one time. Us building by force, not by choice. We have to have a switch in our mindset. Building by force, not by choice. Why aren't we building by choice? Because the last time in this country where we really, really built for ourselves was by force because we were locked out of what white people were doing. And so we were forced to have to do that. But we need to be to a point where it's not by force, it is by choice. And we're building for ourselves because we see the value in building for ourselves. You gotta understand that. Black schools were run by Black principals, staffed by Black teachers, accountable for Black communities. Black churches were not just places of worship, they were banks, political centers, and social safety nets. Black businesses thrived because Black money had nowhere else to go. Black professionals, doctors, lawyers, educators served Black communities and were sustained by them. Segregation, they saw segregation as oppressive, but it forced internal economic circulation, leadership, development, and cultural authority. Once again, they saw segregation as oppressive, but it built internal economic circulation, which it did, leadership, development, and cultural authority, even though it was out of force. Integration changed that overnight because the force wasn't there anymore. Sad to say, when Black people, when we had the choice to build for ourselves, we chose not to. When we were forced to build for ourselves, we did. But when we had the choice to build for ourselves, we chose not to. When schools were desegregated, Black schools were closed, not merged. Tens of thousands of Black teachers and principals lost their jobs. Black educational leadership collapsed, and Black children were placed into systems where they were no longer culturally centered or protected. Right? This is not speculation. This is documented history. The NAACP's own legal defense fund acknowledged that desegregation resulted in the mass displacement of Black educators. A generation of institutional memory was erased. Is that empowerment? Because it's not empowerment. That's institutional loss, right? The same pattern occurred economically. Integration redirected Black spending away from Black-owned businesses and into white-owned corporations. Black dollars stopped circulating internally. Black neighborhoods lost economic anchors. Black leadership declined, not because Black people failed, but because the captive market that sustained Black enterprise disappeared without a replacement strategy. And people are still not listening to Dr. Claude Anderson because a replacement strategy was created. Other replacement strategies were created, but people just didn't listen. And I would say enough people didn't listen and or apply. We gained access, but we lost control. Is access worth the loss of control? This is where modern thinkers like one of the gentlemen that will be in this video, Vince Everett Ellison, enter the conversation. Ellison argues that integration did not liberate Black America. It absorbed us into systems we did not own, turning us into political clients instead of economic stakeholders. In his words, economic gave us proximity without power. Same thing Carter G. Woodson be talking about. Ellison, like Malcolm X before him, argues that Black America mistook legal equality for structural control. And once Black institutions were dismantled, they were never rebuilt because they were told we no longer needed them. There were warnings about about integration. There were warnings against integration. My notes say Zora Neale Hurston opposed school integration, arguing that sitting next to white children did not automatically confer dignity. We know Carter G. Woodson spoke against. He warned that educating Black children in systems that devalue Black history would produce psychological dependence. James Baldwin cautioned that integration without transformation would leave the underlying power structure intact, which it is still intact. And yet those warnings were dismissed because integration had become sacred. So tonight or today, we're not here to romance segregation at all. I am vehemently against segregation with the 2020 hindsight look back, understanding my place and my privilege to be able to look back. But we do ask, why did Black institutional power decline after integration? Why did Black educational authority collapse? Why did Black economic independence erode? Why did Black political access replace economic leverage? And why decades later do we still lack ownership, control, and autonomy? Dr. Anderson even asked these questions, right? So let's answer some of these questions, right? Because in some of it, we've already answered. When we had the choice or had the chance to build for ourselves and maintain for ourselves, we chose not to. We chose the route of let white people take care of us because white people will do a better job. There are too many of us who really believe that white people will do a better job of taking care of us than us. And that goes back to that one live stream I did when the Saint and the Sinners guy was interviewing those two white guys, the Frojax white guys. And those white guys said that they believe that white people should be controlling and running black people's nations, communities, and lives because they do a better job. But this integrationist mindset agrees with that, doesn't it? So I'm just saying. So let's get into this first video. Please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share. Like I say, we getting into it. Put your feelings to it. Please put your feelings to the side. Put your thinking caps on, and let's build. If you disagree, let's disagree respectfully. But let's be here to learn. I'm not saying I got all the answers. I am not the expert on this. I like having good conversations to help us think. So let's do that. Let's go.
Grace and peace, you guys. This is April Chapman, and listen, when I tell you this is like a dream come true, okay? I am sitting here with some of my peers, but also mentors in a sense. I am sitting here with the academic of the group. We've got Chad Jackson in the house. We also have Vince Everett Ellison and Chuck Littleton. And we are live in Lynchburg, Virginia at Media Squatch Studios for it. Would you guys call this an in-house friendly moderated discussion?
Yes.
Of course, yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we're all on the same side.
Yeah, we're all on the same side.
We're all on the same side.
We're all on the same side.
So I'm calling this group an unlikely, they're a bunch of misfits, y'all. They're misfits in the sense that none of these guys really have a whole lot in common, but they have such amazing qualities that overlap that causes me to admire them all in their own right. So I guess the first thing we'll do, we're absolutely, you guys, going to talk a lot about the civil rights movement. That is a source of contention right now within these conservative circles because individuals are questioning whether or not the civil rights movement was valid, if it helped move the conversation forward, if it helped improve Black people in any way. We're also going to talk a little bit about this contention that you two kind of have. It's friendly fire with the differences between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and how, Chad, you're just like, whatever. I don't care for either one of them. And whereas you, Vince, you have more of a more nuance.
No, I don't have a nuance.
Okay.
It's a visceral hatred.
I think Chad probably the one that has
for Democrats and anybody that has any affiliation with them.
Okay, so you have an intense hatred for the left, but not as much for the right.
Why could you like somebody that want to castrate little children? Want to cut off the breasts of little girls and call them little boy?
Fair point. Want
to abort children up to the 9th month?
That is true.
Want to pull God out the public square, have drag queens shaking their asses in your children's faces at public education. No, I got no love for them.
Right.
And every time I see one, I want to knock them out. And if it was legal, I'd do it.
I get you. Well, for the watching audience, this is a cognac and cigar roundtable. And I wanted to make sure y'all understood because the cognac is in the center and we do have the cigar smoke is plentiful. So if I start choking, because I'm about to start gagging in a minute, that is the reason why. But I will suffer through it for the sake of this discussion. So first.
And you look good in that red pantsuit.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's stating the obvious.
Oh, well.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Chuck?
Yeah, I concur.
There you go. We just want to just give you your props.
Thank you. Well, listen.
Red on the bottom.
I'm trying to match you.
Hey, listen.
Y'all, Chuck got on a suit. That was a request. I said I cannot do the show
put a suit on today
unless Chuck show up in a suit.
And every outfit I wear, I gotta wear some type of headwear. So I mean, I didn't have to wear a hat, but I chose to. So
Well, you look amazing. All of you who are gentlemen.
Great looking young man. I applaud you.
Well, you the old head of the group.
I am. But again, Chad and Chuck, they really give me hope because again, when I see these young men up pushing the generation and getting young people to have to answer hard questions, they're not asking questions. They are providing information. They have the answers. And then they go out there and say, prove me wrong. And now people are having to bow to them. We are making serious inroads, not because people listen to old guys like me. They're listening to young men like these guys. And they walk out there and they do battle. And when they do battle, they don't lose.
Awesome. Well, let's start with this. Chad, I want you to talk to us or amongst us and the listening audience. What is this animus that you have with the civil rights movement? As you know, your film, MLK Motives Unmasked, talks a lot or has some overlap with the inroads that the civil rights movement was making. Lay out your best argument as to why you do not believe the civil rights movement was beneficial for America.
Well, you kind of put me on the spot here, especially when you said lay out your best argument. It's typically when I'm asked to lay out my best argument that I lay out my worst argument. So
well, do your best. Well, you got backup here.
Okay, yeah, definitely, for sure. And giving credit where credit is due. I mean, Vince did a film called Will You Go to Hell For Me that covers a lot of the same material.
Right.
But the civil rights movement was an absolute detriment to America. It's interesting because when you look at the I Have a Dream speech, which every child who goes to an American public school, and even many private schools for that matter, are taught about the virtues of the civil rights movement, about how great of a leader King was, and how that I Have a Dream speech was quintessentially American, when in reality, it was anything but American. It was antithetical to American and downright hostile to not only America, but Western civilization in general.
In what ways? Because that's a blanket loaded statement, but to the uninitiated ear, that's blasphemous for you to say that. We hear that speech and we're like, how can you say such a thing?
Yeah, well, you're wrong.
Oh,
they don't hear the speech. They think they hear the speech, but they don't actually hear the speech. If you actually listen to the speech, you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about. And I challenge every person listening to this podcast to actually go back and listen to the speech and really listen to what is being said.
Right.
Vince covers this at length on his own show, as well as speeches that he gives around the country. But if you listen to the speech and he's talking about there will be neither rest nor tranquility until the Negro get his due justice. That the whirlwinds of revolt will continue to rock the core of this nation until the Negro gets his justice. Well, who defines what that justice looks like, actually? Whenever King was asked on a number of occasions after that speech, what does equality for the Negro look like? He talked about redistribution of wealth. He talked about a guaranteed income for the Negro and all poor people. He talked about things that are essentially communistic in nature. That is what he said will bring justice to the Negro. He said the work is never done. And then after he passes, all of his successors are continuing on saying that we have not arrived. Obama said we have not arrived. All those who even came after Obama's presidency said we have not arrived. Right. Nobody knows the answer of when that justice is going to finally roll down like water.
Like he said.
And it's not meant to be final. It's not meant to have an end date or a desired goal.
Open-ended.
It's open-ended, and it's meant to exist in perpetuity. That's what that speech represents.
So FM, I see your comments. Now, and this one, I know they're specifically concentrating on what we call the I Have a Dream speech and some of the rhetoric that was within the I Have a Dream speech. Now, I've watched this clip. I've watched this video several times. There are things in there that they're saying that I disagree with. There are things that they're saying I agree with. I do agree with the overall idea of integration not being a great move for Black America overall and in the long run because of our dependency upon the system of white supremacy for our basic survival. But there are some things in there, and I will admit there are some things that they're critiquing that I have to go back and study. So I don't want to sound like a fool and be challenging things that I don't know. So I'm not gonna go around challenging things that I don't know, because I do have to do a bit more studying on some of the things that they are talking about. But overall, like that, I do agree that the idea of equality, being equal to your oppressors, is something that It's not gonna happen. It's because your oppressors would never give you that space. You either gonna it's power. At the end of the day, it's power. You either gonna take it or you don't have it. So yeah, black people were largely shut out of the economy. The next time we said, Dr. Martin Luther King said, the next time we came to Washington, we coming to get our checks. Yeah. But like I say, for this one, they're focusing mainly on the I have a dream. And so I do want to bring some context and be fair to Dr. King, because Dr. King's, in my opinion, from what I've studied, Dr. King, his thinking and things evolved over time as he got older and as he grew as a man and as a leader, his thinking evolved. So I do want to point out that they're concentrating specifically on what we call the I have a dream speech, and they're not concentrating on like the breadth of King's words and speeches in his work. I do want to be specific about that. But the idea of equality with your oppressor is not something that your oppressor is going to give you, and to think that from a moral stance that it's going to happen, it won't. And I do want to say this. We can't intellectualize ourselves out of oppression, and we can't take a moral stance to get out of oppression. It's power. How do you challenge power? He said, Malcolm X told us that equality is based not on our natural potential, not the position, on our natural potential, not the position of white people. There you go, Black Love School. Make that big. Based on our natural potential, not the position of white people. There you go. There you go. There you go. What's going on, Kobe? What's going on? Brian Jefferson. Well, how you doing, my brother? How you doing? Thank y'all for being up in here. Shannon, how you doing? What happened? What stops you from starting a business and hiring black people if that's what you want? Yep, black people got to do that. We got to do it. We got to do it.
And perhaps we'll get more into a lot of the goals that undergirded the March on Washington, but I'll just name one right now. What the March on Washington was, it came to fruition in 1963, but they've been attempting to do it since the early 40s. And there were other similar quote unquote marches.
Shannon, this is also YouTube. So if you don't, if what's going on here don't fit your needs or fit your liking, you can either find another channel or you can do what you said. You can go start a business and hire black people. But this is YouTube. We come here to think, to get our strategies together and go back into the community and in real life, because the real work happens in real life. This is YouTube. What are you expecting to happen here on this live stream, Shannon? What exactly do you want to happen on this live stream that's going to change the trajectory of black people right here on this live stream, Shannon? Come on now, grow up.
It was on Washington in the 1930s. And if
with similar demands, or?
Well, so when you look at the,
they are right.
I forget what the actual name of the march was.
These people are very, 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 very right-leaning, very right-leaning.
It was, you had veterans in the 1930s who were upset that they weren't getting what was promised to them for going into the war.
These were World War I veterans, right?
Yeah, the bonus marches.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of the speeches that were given during the bonus march and you listen to the I Have a Dream speech, King is actually lifting some of the rhetoric from those speeches. He's lifting rhetoric from other speeches that were given by other orators and things that were written by other writers. For example, there's a Chicago man by the name of Archibald Carey Jr., who in the 1952, I believe it was, Republican National Convention, delivered a speech, and perhaps we'll get into the speech later on whenever we're talking more about partisan history. But he delivered a speech, he's a black man out of Chicago, delivered a speech to the Republican National Convention, and he's talking about this scenic kind of vision that he has of letting freedom ring from this place to that place, from that place to this place. And
So it wasn't original.
It wasn't.
King was a hell of a plagiarizer.
That we do know.
Yeah.
Do you share the same sentiment, Chuck? I've followed your work for a good little while, and you have a very eloquent way of putting things as well. Do you share the same sentiment on the "I Have a Dream" speech, and is it from the same vantage point?
Absolutely. As Chad, I am in agreement with Chad. The unfortunate part about it is that, most people don't, honestly, I believe that most Americans, generally speaking, they haven't heard the speech. They've never listened to it. They know that, of course, the famous line about content of character.
Right.
Yeah, that's the line.
And he takes that line, and all throughout the speech, as Chad has just pointed out, he says a lot of things that are overtly communist, that are overtly Marxist, and he sort of he blends those two things together so as to say, if you're talking about content of character, if you want to in fact prove that you believe this, then now it's time to give blacks their quote unquote fair share of the economic pie, so to speak.
So what is your push? What would you say to individuals? Because I understand both sides of the argument, and I land on your side. Trust me, I do. But it is so difficult for people who they don't understand the argument, and their position is, well, but black people were not equal. We didn't have what everybody else had, and we couldn't achieve what everybody else could achieve. How can you say, right? So but you have to flesh that out for people, because they struggle to think that sitting beside the white man or drinking from his water fountain was the pinnacle of our achievement.
I was about to say, you pointed at him and said white man.
So to be fair, because that is a very, 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 very simplified way to sum up integration. And that's very simplified, because you can't just simplify it down to, I want to eat at a white man's counter table. I want to drink from a white man's countertop, even though those were images and things that we saw and that were promoted. But if we studied a bit deeper, they were fighting for more than that. They were fighting for what they believed that would give them a leg up. They were fighting for what they believed was their civil rights, their humanity, all those things that, even though looking back, we can see that, it might not be the best move, but that's what they were fighting for. So to just reduce it down to water fountains and countertops is, that's crazy work. That's crazy work. So that I do want to put that in. I just, it can't be simplified just down to that. It was more thought. It was more thought going into it. It had a greater outcome than all that. So yeah.
He's a dark and
I'm looking like.
I know, right? No, you know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Taxes was feeling unwelcome. Now Taxes is an open door to new TurboTax stores. Meet our experts. They do your taxes, so you can walk out with confidence. Now this is Taxes.
I thought I was doing everything right for my dog. I wasn't. I had no idea my dog's constant paw licking, scratching, and head shaking were allergy symptoms. I thought it was just normal dog stuff. I was so wrong.
Help them to understand it.
This how do you define success, and how do you define making it? Like we mentioned earlier, we talked about the open-ended fallacy.
Right.
Thomas Sowell talks about that in one of his books. He's written so many, and
right.
it may have been
Thomas Sowell,
the famous economist to whom many people still make reference to, Adam Smith, who originally coined the term of the open-ended fallacy. It's like, well, you make a proposition, but given the fact that our resources are finite, right? There has to be a limit. It has to be a line that you cannot cross, so as to potentially destroy the entire thing, because no one ideal is worth destroying everything until you achieve this goal. For example,
I'm trying to grow my hair like Thomas Sowell, but it just ain't happening. So
such things. We talk about economic justice, right? One of the terms that King would throw around. Well, what is that?
What is that?
What
makes you equal? What is the dollar amount that we need to attain that says we're now equal?
What makes you go, okay, I can't afford to pay that. I can't pay the cost. The price of that is too high.
Right.
Because the only thing we can hope to do as human beings is mitigate certain unwanted things. Is the burden of life. Right. The burden. To live is to be burdened, and there's only so much we can do to alleviate the things that we find displeasing, war, poverty, conflict, these sort of things. And so when you hear King say what he says during the March on Washington, and he goes on to say as well, I don't believe it's the famous "I Have a Dream" speech, but he did say, and he's probably said it on more than one occasion. I know this is a famous quote of King's where he talks about how the black race or the black man or whatever, there can be no justice or equality for them until they receive economic justice or economic equality.
Does he ever define that?
He never defined.
So I think though, and I see what y'all see a lot of comments, especially about the schools, but I think that's some of the dilemma that black people were in though. And when it comes back to decisions that had to be made for those people at that time, and being respectful, I would say, of the decisions and things that they had to make at that time. Because yes, let's take the conversation you all are having about the textbooks and things. Yes, they were not the best. And you were not going to get a lot of help from white America. You were not going to get a lot of resources from white America to get the books. And if you integrate into white America, you get the books that they get, but you lose your school systems. And so, the decision that they made was to integrate, and we lost most of our school systems that we controlled and things. And well, looking at it in the long run, looking at where we are educationally, we're still under their control, under their systems. So if we would have went the route of, okay, we got these raggedy textbooks, this is all the stuff we have for right now, but how can we use this to push forward and do what we need to do? Well, I don't know what the outcome could have been. We don't know because we went the other way, but that's something I'm just putting on the table. You had these two dilemmas. You had these two ways that you can go. You can continue to go down this way where you have inadequate resources, or you can integrate and then lose your institutions. So
and the thing is, it's like you said, what exactly makes a person in their mind believe that all groups are for no reason other than the fact that they're alive?
Should have the same everything.
Yeah, that they should have the same everything. Where does this notion? Where
it's envy, it's covetousness.
I was going to ask,
what they did also, they defined it in a kind of weird, finite way of telling black people with a slave mentality that this success comes when you have access to white people,
right?
Whenever you want it, in any way that you desire it, and they have no right to ever tell you, I don't want you in my presence.
Right.
And if they do, they are bad people.
It's funny that you bring that up, because it's almost as if there's a person, you're trying to set a boundary. You're like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't like you. I don't want you in my personal space. And this person just insists, why don't you pay attention to me? Why don't you love me? Why won't you let me be in your life? Because I don't want to.
And colored people weren't exactly chopping at the bit to get into white
and
spaces.
They weren't. You're right. They were not. That was the fallacy. You had
to. Even though he used the term and colored people, but I get what he was saying, because that's what we call it at that time. But when you do go back and study the way we were taught about integration, we were taught as if a mass of Black America wanted to integrate, and it wasn't a mass of Black America. It was a good portion of Black America. It was a sizable portion, of Black America. It was those who supported the ideas of King and the Civil Rights Movement. Those people were pushing for integration, but you had other groups of Black people who were vehemently against integration. So being able to understand that at that time, not all of Black America wanted integration as well. Even though the way he said it though, said, cut the check, that's what needs to. Well, yeah, and remember, nobody gonna cut no check until we make them. Nobody gonna do nothing until we make them. But it go back to one of the things that Shannon is saying. Yeah, we do got to support each other. We do have to support, but we already know that. We know we got to support each other, but why aren't we doing it? Yeah, he did say FM, but those colored people. But why aren't we supporting each other? Well, that goes into our conditioning, our programming. We were programmed to not work together, but at the same time, once again, if somebody come in your house and make a mess in your house, you got to clean up your house. We have to learn how to reprogram ourselves and then pass that down.
A bunch of people bust down from the North mostly,
right,
who want to press this ideology. And they said that, you know, they bought this false dichotomy that unless you are allowed in white spaces, you are inferior, and that some law has been broken and that you've been treated badly. And Black people are the only people, I studied this, and maybe the South Africans might be next to us, only people in the history of the world that ever fought to integrate with their oppressor.
Yeah.
Never. Everybody.
Well, he made me think, and what Lukman said made me think too. Let's remember, these are not, first of all, let's remember, nobody has the answer for us as to a true answer for us as to how we get out of this. How do we defeat this? Because nobody has done it. So if anybody's coming at you saying, I have the answer, they don't have the answer. They may have a good plan, but we don't know if it's the answer because we haven't implemented it. And that's one of the greatest things that has been holding us back. People have given us plans and things that we can use, but en masse, we haven't implemented them. But it's the system. It's the system though. It's being able to understand. If you don't defeat this system, nothing else matters. So Black people have to figure out what we're gonna do. We got to make our mind up what we're gonna do. But we can't intellectualize. We will never intellectualize ourselves out of oppression, and we'll never get out through a moral lane either. They didn't intellectualize us into oppression, and it has nothing to do with morals at the end of the day. So conversations like this are good for me to stimulate critical thinking and thought processes of things that we need to be doing back in our everyday lives. So what are you learning from this? What are you picking up from this? And what are you taking back to your everyday life and your everyday community to implement it, to help to make sure that you, your family, and your community is better? So those are the things here. And remember, it's okay to disagree, but let's just be civil about what we do. So, but we will never intellectualize our way out of oppression. And history tells us that you don't have to even know how to read to conquer a people. You don't.
Even the Indians on the Indian tribes didn't want to be around white people, right, because they were fighting to be away from them, actually.
Right.
You had the Asians would come over, they'd start Chinatown, Koreatown. Right. You have the Irish, they would start their time. Mm-hmm. People will come together because it was understood. Mm-hmm. And we see it in the animal kingdom. They come together in herds for protection. Right. Mm. We're going to come together. It's not that we hate you, but we kind of know.
We know us.
We know us, and we're going to come together, and we're going to cook our food, listen to our music. We have a type of comfort with each other because we know each other.
A clan bond.
And nobody ever saw injury in that. It was always something that people did. And when King went into Chicago, for instance, you had sections of Chicago where the Jewish people lived, where the Irish lived, where the Italians lived, where the whites lived. And then you had the Black section. Yeah. And the Black section wanted to forcibly come out and invade these other sections.
They didn't tolerate it.
And they're saying,
get out of here.
Why?
You talking about the Marquette riots and stuff.
Yeah, you remember Forrest Gump, when it was on Forrest Gump, and they showed that Miss Malone was trying to integrate University of Alabama. Forrest comes in. Forrest is very simple, as you know.
Yeah.
He was retarded, wasn't he?
He's in that
Now listen to this.
Forrest walks up.
For the life of me, so many people love that movie, and I still don't know what it's about.
But listen, though.
I don't know.
Listen, though.
I know, but what is it about?
Well,
What's
listen,
the
let me
theme
tell
of
you
the
this.
movie? I don't know.
Let me tell you something about it. Forrest walks up, sees all of this stuff happening. He sees George Wallace keeping Vivian Malone from coming in. And so Forrest says, well, what's going on?
He's P. Diddy all in the video.
Yeah. He says, what's going on? And then this guy says, Coon's trying to get into our school.
Coon.
Forrest said, Coons? He said, well, Coon's trying to get him. Mama just knock him off the back porch. He said, no, not Coons. N-word. And then Forrest asked the greatest question ever. He said, you want to go to school with us? He said, yeah. He said, why?
Right.
And most of us took that the wrong way.
Forrest says, why?
Right. Right.
Why?
Right. Why
and
do you
that's
want to go?
always the question, isn't it? Why? You know,
I
what?
just had a revelation. I think I may have discovered what the movie's about.
Common sense. Why? Don't you have your own schools?
So smart
Why
and
you want to
dumb.
be around?
So one thing I do agree with what they're talking about is the putting your children in danger to segregate the schools. The Ruby Bridges story. I don't agree. I wouldn't have done that for my child. For me, once again, looking back, having the privilege to look back, we have to have that caveat. Having the privilege to look back, I wouldn't have done that for my child either. That I agree with. I do agree that, but I'm also, as I'm listening to them talk, because once again, I agree with their final analysis that integration was not the best thing for us, but I'm also, looking at them and listening, but I'm wondering, like, okay, like, these are the same intellectuals we be complaining about too, though. Once again, of course, this is all for us to get our brain food and get right and get our energy so we can go back into our communities. But remembering that these are the intellectuals, and intellectuals so far, out of all these intellectuals and things that we've had, none of them have been able to lead us anywhere that we need to go to the system of white supremacy. But we also understand why, because they are not programmed to do so. Even though these gentlemen may have this viewpoint, may have this information and the hindsight to look back and say what they say and critique, but they are critiquing it from a right-wing standpoint. And I'm wondering, out of all of that, what are they doing to make sure that Black America can be better at the end of the day, other than just writing things? Because I wrote books too, cool, but what am I doing on a regular basis in my community to make things better? So, yep. So, but yeah, we're gonna let this conversation go a little further, then we're gonna get to the next conversation. Like I said, I wanted different viewpoints on the conversation about integration, and this is just the first conversation. I have 2 more conversations, 2 more viewpoints.
This chaos. Why would you want to integrate with the Ku Klux Klan?
Thank you, Renee.
Right.
Why do you
demand
want
that they educate you too?
Right. What did you say? Only a fool want their enemy to educate their children.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, we were forcibly sending our children to places. Vivian Malone, Ruby Bridges.
Oh, we love that story, don't we?
Where they treated that child like a dog.
And imagine
James
the parents
Meredith,
subjecting their children to that.
Yeah.
No, we've been told that is virtuous, that you're doing a good thing for the Negro race, Ruby, by going into the school where these people can spit on you. Now, I understand the argument that it was wrong for these people to spit on her. That's not the argument.
Why would you put your child through that?
That is my argument.
Why I don't want my children going to school with you. And there were good Christian white people and Christian Black people that would come together. And then those were the ones on the other side, the Klan and the Nation of Islam, they didn't want to come together.
But even the Klan was infiltrated by the communists.
Well, let me just say, I mean, people organize themselves in ways in which they see fit.
Right.
And a lot of the people who were opposed to, who thought that the Supreme Court had, made the incorrect decision in the Brown case, a lot of people were saying, you just wait and see. Eventually, they're going to start forcing integration. They're going to start busing. And people are no, that's going to happen.
Wow. So it was their sentiment. You're saying
it was in a foregone.
It wasn't. And then what ended up happening was once that decision came down, the demographics, I mean, they remain virtually unchanged. Then people said, okay, well, since you don't want to do it, we're going to make you.
We're going to force you.
We're going to force you to do it. And I think Kent County.
In the 1964 Civil Rights Act, when they were discussing it, they said on the floor there would never be busing. They would never, ever allow busing in the United States of America, forced integration. And then guess what happened? The federal courts.
Busted. But what do y'all say to people who say, y'all sound racist? Y'all sound like y'all want us in a segregated schools and segregated, whites only businesses.
You don't talk to people like that. You talk past people like that.
We got to dumb it down for the,
I don't think it's my obligation to dumb it down. I mean, when you look at the growth of my audience, it hasn't come by dumbing things down.
It hasn't.
It's come by speaking the straight facts and telling the truth.
And my answer is always, why would you want to be around someone that doesn't want to be around you? Why would you want to be somewhere where you're not wanted?
Right.
Why would you want to be somewhere where the people make you feel small?
Right.
Why would you want to go somewhere where you know you're merely being tolerated? That's manhood 101. If you go somewhere and you know you're not wanted, what do you do, Chad?
You go someplace else.
You go somewhere else. You just leave.
You say,
leave. Peace out. I'm going to make you serve me. I'm going to go and I'm going to call the police. I don't want to be here.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chad. No.
And it really, I mean, it's so telling because it reveals what's really at play here. This is about your worldview in terms of what you think, or what institution, if you would, you think is most vital to the functioning of a healthy society.
Right. That it has to be that.
Yeah, because the reality is you're still dealing with people. So if you think that a person is incapable of opening up and softening their heart so as to go beyond the bounds, the boundaries of their own.
And see, Brother Juma, that's why I said what I said earlier, because to be fair, they are judging King off, or they're integrating him and his thoughts and his words and just off of that one speech, the what we call the I Have a Dream speech, and not the totality of his works. Because they're not including, like what you're saying, his later thoughts, his later works, his evolved thinking. They haven't done that. So I'm glad you put that in the comments, because you reminded me once again to put that caveat out there. They are really basing this, and especially when they're bringing King in the conversation, based off of the I Have a Dream speech, and once again, not the totality of his work, not the evolution of his thinking.
Own familiarity in terms of their plan with race, religion, and so on and so forth. You're saying that the private sector is incapable, and so therefore we're going to leave it up to legislatures and those who execute the law in the executive branch to make sure we accomplish what is socially ideal. But these are still human beings. So here's the question: if
Shannon, when you say Black people have advanced economically, are you mean on the individual level, or as a whole, like Black people as a whole, or Black people on individual levels?
you don't think that white people are capable of being fair in the private sector, why are they going to be fair in government? It's just that you believe that the most capable and the most ethical and moral people are the ones who are in government, because you place impetus, you put primacy on the state, as opposed to the original idea. We're talking about Western civilization. I think when it comes to Christianity, it crystallized it. But even prior to, going all the way back to the days of Aristotle, when he talked about how individuals protect themselves from tyranny, is they must cultivate virtue. So you must have an internal sort of governing mechanism. This is what we're talking about when we mean self-governance.
Based on virtues and
based on morality.
Sex and appetite.
Exactly. You remember that's what John Adams said? This Constitution is designed for moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate.
Yeah.
Because we give so many freedoms to the people of America that if you are not moral, you're not virtuous, you're not good people. And also, if you're not moral and virtuous, who are you going to elect? Look in the ghettos.
Well, this moral, once again, morals, neither morals nor intellect will get you out of oppression. Taking a moral stance don't mean nothing. Taking a moral stance don't make you feel good about what you did and how you did. That's all a moral stance does. Morals is for you to feel good internally. Morals will not help your people advance their cause against people who don't give a damn about morals. Morals don't mean nothing on the battlefield. Who cares what your morals are on the battlefield? If morals mattered, white supremacists wouldn't move the way they move if morals mattered. Why should we have anything based in morals that will help, that we would think that will help advance us against white supremacy? Morals mean nothing. All morals do is, once again, make you feel good. It may make a couple white people pat you on top of your head while they continue to dominate you. So you can put it like this. You can be, and Brian, so I hear what you're saying. So you can have all the intelligence you want. Now, if you mix the intelligence with code of conduct, with organization, with systems, with all those things, if you put all of that together with the intelligence, then you got something. But if you just, because like in our case, we're educated. Like, you got a lot of black people who are educated. I'm educated. A lot of black people who are educated, but we don't know how to actually truly oppose the system of white supremacy with all the education we have. Now, if we was to mix that with a little bit of military education, military tactics, military science and stuff, and survival science and all those different things, and you mix all that together, and I think we can have something powerful. But it's just like, all right, you got a degree in sociology, you got a degree in economics, we got all these PhDs and stuff, all that. So how is that going to help us against a group of people who know how to bash your face in, who know how to organize, who know how to fight as an organized group, who know how to move as an organized group? So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Black Democrats,
despots,
people just like them,
Black Democrats,
because they have no virtue.
Let me say something real quick, because pardon my insensitivity earlier when I say you just talk past them.
Right.
I think Vince hit something basically right on the head when he, basically it's exposing the insecurity that people have
inferiority
when they say, well, what about, what about this and what about that? It's like, why do you feel that you need proximity to white people in order to feel as if you are equal?
Right.
That says more about you.
Because his water is colder, Chad.
Right. White ice is colder. And so that's what they're subconsciously demonstrating.
Right.
Whenever they say, well, what about race? They didn't want us in here. They didn't want us. Well, listen.
I couldn't buy a house in their neighborhood.
For every whites only sign, you had a colored only sign.
Yes,
you did.
Correct.
Think about that for a second. You had a colored
one.
A colors only water fountain, right? So the discrimination went both ways, right? So the fact that you see a whites only sign and you feel some type of way about that says.
And the black people didn't put the colored only signs up. What is he talking about? Black people could not force white people to. What? Man, come on. I know by his voice. I vehemently disagree with what he's talking about right here. Black people could not forcibly keep white people away from no water fountains or no anything else that may have had colored on the signs. And did black people put those signs up? I doubt black people put those signs up. Come on, man. What is he talking about?
It's more about you.
Or why is it white people never felt some sort of kind of way to be like, well, why we can't go eat with the coloreds?
Right.
Because minorities. I mean, they had their sensibilities exploited by demagogues, or perhaps they had their sensibilities shaped.
Can you dumb that down? What?
When it
no.
They were taught by the iron triangle to feel inferior.
Yeah.
Our leadership never taught us to look at ourselves the way we were supposed to.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, and it's Washington, George Schuyler, and others.
And then what? And they got excoriated by the NAACP and W.B. Du Bois.
Yeah, and it's fairly easy to use minority populations for this purpose, particularly politicians. Those who specialize in the soft sciences and in the humanities. Unfortunately, our humanities has been completely just degraded.
Right.
And so. That's probably a whole other discussion. But considering the fact that blacks are the racial minority in this country, and we have a totally different. I mean, our histories are intertwined with different types of white folks from various parts of the European subcontinent, right?
Right.
But human capital does not develop in a vacuum. And what I mean is that, certain individuals or certain groups of folk just have a tendency. It doesn't mean that they're locked in there. But certain groups of people have a tendency to be good at certain things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it doesn't mean that if you take an interest in that thing, once we can kind of lift the restraints on people and kind of allow them to explore, to see exactly what they want to do or what they're good at doing, and so on and so forth. It's not like you can't be good at this thing over here, but certain gifts, certain skills, certain human capital, as we call it, it tends to remain within certain groups.
Right.
And when you have Black folks and we come over here and we're the racial minority, again, it's automatic. It's easy to say, well, you don't have what these folks have over here. It's like, well, again, why do you expect me to have that necessarily? I mean, why?
Right. Who set the standard that was?
It's like the world's best. I don't know, a hockey players, they aren't going to come from hot weather climates. It's just not, because the human capital needed, the environment that is needed is not present in those particular areas. So that they tropical weather climates aren't going to produce.
You're right,
Black hockey players. That's just the reality.
Oh yeah. So that was one perspective. That was one conversation, one perspective about integration and its effects. Definitely a right-wing perspective. Definitely a right-wing perspective. Things I agreed with that they said, things I disagreed with. They said it. I see it's caused a lot of conversation in it, but that's good. I want us to think. I want us to have real good conversations about this. So please hit that like button. Please hit that like button. Let's see how many likes we at right now. Just keep this conversation going. All right, we got 89 likes. Let's get these likes up. Let's please get these likes up in here. And I'm looking at my poll question. My poll question is, did integration make Black people less reliant on ourselves and more reliant on white people? And right now, 80% is saying yes, and 20% is saying no. All right, well, that's good. Let's do it. He said they bugging. let's keep the conversation going. Now, you're right. Let's keep this conversation going. So this is, I would say, more from a traditional Black people, more democratic, regular Black people lens as well. Because I want to get once again get different perspectives, not things I necessarily agree with fully, not things I necessarily disagree with fully, but different perspectives on it so we can think about it. So let's get it. Hold on, let me share my screen first. And the conversation, the video that I just played, if you go to her YouTube channel, they continue those conversations. So there's part 2, part 3, maybe to that conversation as well. So.
Welcome to Contemporary Black Voices, your host, the writer Fred. Today we're going to be talking about integration. Was integration good or bad for Black America is a question that has dominated many debates over the years. Should Black America have sought a separate nation was first articulated by Dr. Martin Delany as early as 1865. At the same time, Frederick Douglass argued in favor of assimilation into the white dominant society. That debate carried on for decades with leaders such as Booker T. Washington, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois taking the Frederick Douglass position and Marcus Garvey favoring the separatist position. Later, it was Elijah Muhammad supporting the separation of the races, while Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the most successful movement for integration. Today, the debate goes on, but has been altered somewhat because integration is a given since the famous Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1964. And after passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, the question for debate on this issue that appears to not go away: are we as Black Americans better or worse off as a result of integration? That is the topic for today's show, and let's jump right into it. Let me turn to Dr. Sharon first.
Okay.
I'll let you have it. Go ahead.
So when you told me about the topic, I had to look at it from an education perspective, and thinking about my own childhood, and even a current quick study I did. I asked people on Facebook, when did they have their first Black teacher? And a lot of people, Black, white, Hispanic, said that they, some had interactions in their schools, but a lot of them didn't have their first interaction until they got into college.
Oh, okay.
So there was a study done on the impact of integration in the educational system. And the woman's name was, was Vanessa
What's going
Walker.
on? What's going on, Dion? It's all good, my brother. You here? That's all that matters. We talk about integration. We just analyzing the effects of integration, but also throwing in the caveat that we do have the advantage of looking back over all these years and having all this information, but still trying to consider their thought processes at the time. But nevertheless, looking at the overall effects of integration. So welcome, my brother.
They did the study. And in that study, she talked about the hidden history of integration that we don't talk about. And part of that history is that when there was a sacrifice for aspiration, we gave up advocacy. And part of that reason for that was that prior to integration, there were Black schools with Black teachers. And even though those schools didn't have what a lot of the white schools had, Black teachers were just known to make do with what they had and do something wonderful out of it. So the kids had the advocacy. They had the support. They had all that going on, and they were doing well. And a lot of the records from those Black schools have been destroyed because the narrative we hear about Black schools prior to integration was what? They were bad, the kids didn't learn anything, and that's just not true. So we fast forward to post desegregation. But what has happened? Well, a lot of those Black teachers that was available back in the Black schools prior to that, we're seeing a continued shortage or lack of representations of Black teachers in schools. I'm not going to give the name of the school district, but here in San Antonio, we have one school district where they had like 58, when I did that study, they had 58 elementary schools. And each one of those schools had a student population of Black students. But what was missing was, in over 50% of those schools, was some type of Black professional on those campuses, where they were teachers or administrators. I can't speak for the paraprofessionals, but a lot of those kids didn't have it. And then the schools that did have Black teachers, it may be one or two on the campus. And that has been the norm, one or two. So our kids have benefited, all kids have benefited from integration, in that if the learning environment is right, then those kids are learning how to work with one another. They're learning their leadership skills on how to work with one another. And so that part is good.
So you're talking about...
I disagree. I disagree with what she said. This quote right here, this comment right here, this is why I disagree. The purpose of education is to solve our collective problems, right? It's from Dr. Amos Wilson. When we integrated education, we lost sight of what our collective problem was, right? Our collective problem is the illegitimate rule of white people, right? We learned how to help white people fix their problems. We learned how to be good for white America. We learned how to fit better into their systems. We learned better how to be better in their businesses and their industries, but nothing for us. So you learn how to be a leader for white America, but not necessarily a leader for Black people. So the majority of the teachers that I had in school, every school I went to, with the exception of my middle school, was a predominantly black school. Miracle Temple, preschool, all black. There were no white people at Miracle Temple. None. I didn't even have white classmates at Miracle Temple. I went to Pineview Elementary School. I didn't have any white classmates. We might have had one white classmate, maybe one white boy, one white girl. We had more Hispanics, more Koreans, more Indonesians than white people. And then I got to the 3rd grade, and that was when I had my first white teacher. That's when that was probably my worst academic year ever. The first time I had a white teacher. I did horrible in school. And then I went on to continue to have black teachers for the rest of my time at elementary school. Middle school, I had a few white teachers. I only did well in one white teacher's class. The rest of them I really didn't do well, but the majority of my teachers were black. High school, the majority of my teachers were black. I actually did well in the classes that were taught by white people in high school, but the majority of my teachers were black. The majority of the school was black. It was a predominantly black school, Rickards High School. I went to Bellevue Middle School, then I went to Rickards High School. If you from Tallahassee, Florida, and you know anything about Rickards, you already know what type of school that is, right? So predominantly black school. Then I went to Florida Agricultural Mechanical University for college. HBCU. And I can tell you, out of all of these black teachers and all that black schooling, the majority of those teachers didn't teach us how to solve our problems. The majority of those teachers didn't teach us how to be a cog in the wheel for Black America. I had a handful of teachers who had the information, and this happened when I got to college. When I got to college and I got a part of FAMU's Black Psychology program, which is an African-centered Black Psychology program, that's when a lot of things changed as far as my thinking and operational ways of how I do my life. And as far as helping me understand that education should solve our problems. So I do disagree with her about saying that the integration made us better educationally. Yes, made us better educationally for them, but not better educationally for us. Because even though the schools I went to were predominantly black schools, they were still under the white education system. So
interacting, black kids, white kids, Mexican kids.
Yeah, they're learning how to interact with one another. But the advocacy piece is lost in a lot of cases. Hence why we have a lot of our black kids, especially black boys, in special education, because about 80% of the teachers are white females.
Could you just right there tell our viewers what special education is?
Okay, special education is where if a teacher, I'm going to give you the layman's definition.
Okay.
If a teacher senses a learning deficit in a child, or he or she may have some type of physiological capabilities that can interfere with their learning, then they're moved into special education. Now, a lot of our black boys get put in special education for behavioral issues.
You're right.
And remember, I'm saying that 80% of classrooms are being led by white teachers. So back in the day, prior to
and see, Brian, but to your comment, Brian, that's why black media has to do a better job of celebrating and championing the members of our community who actually do constructive stuff. So, hey, fam, you in here? I would never go to no North Carolina A&T. Never go to North Carolina A&T. Nah, shout out. Hey, nah, I respect y'all. Shout out to y'all though. Shout out to y'all.
segregation, integration.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate
those kids probably would have been in those special education classrooms because those teachers knew how to handle that situation.
Okay, let's go to my man here, Chris. Go for it.
In answer to your question, Was segregation
I
good or
agree too,
bad?
AWS.
I would fall on the
Could I just correct you? It was integration good or bad?
integration.
Yeah.
I would still say my answer is no. It was bad.
Okay. You
Okay.
wanna tell us why?
Yeah, I will tell you why. Because I don't think that, first of all, we have always been chasing something that is unattainable.
So look, I support and all the HBCUs. I ain't gonna front. There are some HBCUs that I do favor a little more. I ain't gonna lie. A&T got my respect. A&T got my respect. Southern got my respect. Grambling got my respect. Jackson State got my respect. Howard got my respect. You know what I'm saying? We FAMU, we bougie. I ain't even gonna front. We ghetto bougie down in FAMU. But shout out to all the HBCUs. But I am critical of HBCUs because I grew up on the HBCU. I graduated from HBCU, and I still work on HBCU campuses. So I am very critical of HBCUs because we do turn out a lot of black people that think white. But shout out to the HBCUs though.
Attainable. Having said that, as we continue to go into society,
as well.
You look at the Black Wall Street, you look at the different places around America that in the 1920s, where we were forced to be in neighborhoods of our own. And Black folks have always been resourceful. And from that resourcefulness, we've been able to establish for ourselves. If we had to be by ourselves, we learned to be by ourselves. But once we learned to,
we wouldn't be on the internet if it wasn't for black people. We wouldn't be on the internet if it wasn't for black people. So remember that. White people benefited from that because of the segregation, because of having a black person who can be able to create something like this, something like the internet, to be able to create social media. So if it wasn't for the genius of black people, we wouldn't even have no internet.
Be by ourselves. Then whites felt that that was not good enough. They didn't like us being by ourselves because we were being successful. So they came and destroyed that. So then,
how did they destroy it?
Well, if you look at Black Wall Street, you can see how they firebombed it. You can look at what's it called, Bruce's Beach in Huntington Park or Huntington Beach,
in California.
California, right? You know, they came and took that beach away from black folks and turned it over to whomever, white folks. So that's basically what has happened and what you've seen around America. Where I think that segregation has always been, and it's now starting to be eroded, is when you talk about black colleges. When you talk about the black colleges, you're seeing more and more whites come into black colleges as opposed to black kids.
Yes.
And if there's anything that we're going to need to take control of, I think it's first the black colleges, and then we need to step back and begin to educate our own in our own community to get them ready for the black colleges. But if we let those black colleges go, then our professionals and the people that we have are going to be lost.
Our colleges and our school systems. Our colleges, our I guess you could say elementary, secondary school systems, and the churches. We need to take back and reconstruct our school systems in our churches, our religious systems. School systems and our religious systems need to be overhauled, and they need to be reconstructed for us, by us, rather than the way that they are constructed. That doesn't help us. Yep. School systems and churches need to be reconstructed, overhauled. Because all of our scholars who have analyzed these institutions have already told us how they help us. These institutions basically help construct a mindset of whiteness that support whiteness, a white worldview, or the white gaze. That's what I'm looking for. That white gaze to help us have that white gaze. We need to overhaul our education system and our religious systems. Overhaul. And if you check out my Monday videos, my book reading Mondays, where we're reading the miseducation of the Negro, we're down to our last chapter. If you check out these videos, I'm talking about it all the time. I'm talking about all the time about overhauling our systems.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay. Mr. Caleb.
From my point of view is this, and I want to state this with a caveat. Okay, so first, should we have fought for integration? Yes.
Okay. Should we fought it?
Should we have fought for integration? And the reason I say that is because we have a right to all the benefits of American citizenship. We built this country. It was built on the backs of black labor. It's still built or being built on the back of black culture. And so, and I'll explain that later. So but with that being said, should we have fought for integration? Yes. Was integration good for us? That's another thing.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because it resulted in the destruction of our community economically.
So should we have fought for it? So you're saying we should have fought for it, but you also agree that it aided to the destruction of our black economy. So should we have fought for that? Being able to look back and even coming up with that conclusion that you come up with, was it a good idea though? And he says, yes, I'm confused. I want to know more. I have to know more. Yeah, I have to know more, because if you can conclude that it was disastrous for us, then why would you say it was good that we fought for it? That's like saying, I know crack gonna kill me, but I'm gonna fight to smoke crack. Think about it. If somebody comes out to say, hey, I know crack is bad for me, but I'm gonna fight you if you try to stop me from smoking crack, we're gonna look at that person like they crazy. So his stance. Now, once again, putting ourselves in the shoes of people back then and their mindset and what they were fighting for and what they believed it was, what they believed equality, what they believed freedom and all those things was, we have the advantage of looking back. So just being fair to that for the people who are actually going through. But for him, with his analyzation, I'm looking at you like sideways. Come on now.
The economic destruction of the black community. And the reason I say that is because we had basically economic ecosystems around the country where we had our own, in some of the larger communities, our own banks, our own insurance companies.
So Cheryl, are you Sherry Charlie, are you saying that we are better, that we should have integrated and we should have went into white systems and everything that we have now is for our benefit? Where you think we're in a better place as a group of people who don't have nothing for ourselves? You think that's better? You think that's a better place? Because when you would rather integrate into somebody else's system and lose everything than start with your rebels and build? Because I would rather start with little to nothing and build and have my future generations be able to have what they need for themselves rather than being dependent upon somebody else to give them what they need, especially their enemies. Now, if you think that integration was a better thing, then cool. But for me, no. You start with what you have and you build. That's the hard work that we scared of.
We had our own grocery stores, funeral parlors, beauty shops, barbershops, grocery stores, motels. You wrote the book on it.
Right, FM.
Go and get The Fires of Greenwood if you don't have it.
Yes.
And so it's an excellent book, well-written book, beautiful book by this brother. So please go get The Fires of Greenwood. And so you wrote the book on it. And so the destruction of Greenwood, and I don't like calling it a massacre because it was more than a massacre, and I think that minimizes it. It was genocide. And so with all the elements of genocide, mass graves, ethnic cleansing, fire bombs, bombing from airplanes, the entire thing. And so, yeah, on American soil. And so I want to call it what it is. It was genocide. And so in order to understand the completeness of that destruction, you have to understand the heights to which that community had risen. And so you had 5 black banks, you had 43 grocery stores. You wrote it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had maybe a multitude, 16 bed and breakfasts or something like that.
You had the most luxurious hotel, the Stratford Hotel.
The Stratford,
yeah, it was the best in the country, and it rivaled white hotels.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they
you
had
had
bed and breakfast before there was bed.
They had bed and breakfast.
You had hospitals.
In this community, you had the teachers, you had the black doctors, you had the black lawyers, you had the dentists, you had everything. And so they built for themselves an economic ecosystem where those black dollars circulated, and it was black businesses employing black folks. And so our dollars were staying within our community, further building wealth within our community, and that right there was broken once integration came in. And so you take Greenwood and you multiply Greenwood by 1,000 times across the country, because we had those same economic systems in communities all across the country, where we had black funeral homes and black grocery stores and you had black physicians, and we had those microsystems all across the country. That was broken once black professionals were able to move out into the suburbs, and they took those businesses with them. And our community never recovered because there was no one to hire.
Okay.
The jobs left. The jobs left. And so my point is, it destroyed us. And even today, and I want to make this point, even today, where you see us coming back towards each other and trying to find each other and moving to communities like Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, it's still gone because that system is destroyed. The foundations are destroyed.
Okay.
We don't have black banks to put our money in anymore. We put our money in the Wells Fargo, and you know how they treat blacks. But we put our money in the Wells Fargo. We put our money in the Chase. We put our money in the Bank of America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When we go to the grocery store, we go to Myers, we go to Aldi's, we go to HEB in Texas. We don't have black grocers to go to anymore. So that foundation, even though we're trying to find each other again and move into communities of color, the economic foundation is gone. It was destroyed.
Okay, we're going to take a break here, but when we come back, in relation to what you said.
So that's pretty much the end of that conversation with them. So one last conversation, not a long conversation. So this is Mark Lamont Hill and a white lady. They're responding to Trevor Noah's statements about integration. So I appreciate everybody being in here. Please make sure y'all hit that like button. Please make sure y'all hit that like button. Hold on, let me look at these likes real quick. All right, got 114 likes. All right, that's what's up. We got 114 likes. That's what's up. I appreciate y'all. Let's keep this thing going. Let's go ahead and round this conversation off, so we won't be here all day. We ain't trying to beat a dead horse, but we want to make sure we get different perspectives on integration and civil rights. Trevor Noah, my bad, wrong one. So this is Mark Lamont Hill and this lady having the conversation, reacting to what Trevor Noah said. So, hey, and I appreciate y'all in the comments. Y'all having good discussion and a healthy discussion, and you all are having adult disagreements. I appreciate. Hold on, I gotta give y'all hand claps. I'll give y'all hand clap. We ain't got nobody going at each other, calling people out their name today, and I really appreciate it that we can have constructive conversations and be civil about it. So I appreciate you all. But let's get to it so we can round this thing on off. And happy Saturday, and I appreciate y'all being here.
Trevor Noah just asked the question that nobody wants to touch. Was integration a mistake? On this podcast, Noah was talking about this podcast called What Now? And the former Daily Show host pushed back on the idea that integration helped Black Americans. He argued that segregation without the racism might have been better. So then he brings on somebody to talk about this. And he brings on a brilliant sociologist, a good friend of mine, Ruha Benjamin, professor at Princeton University, who laid out why integration actually weakened Black communities, stripping them of self-sufficiency, businesses, and institutions. Noah even pointed to Finland, a mostly homogenous country, as proof that a lack of diversity isn't always a bad thing. But is it really the same thing as what happened in America? I'm going to pull up the question here because I think that it's an interesting one when it's proposed to a brilliant person like Ruha Benjamin. I'm going to, whoops, we got a little tech issue here. Let me see here. Where is that video? This is why I'm not allowed to do things unsupervised.
I'm curious if the chat can also chat. What do you think? Do you think that? I mean, I see that Zakia has an opinion here, and a lot of people probably do have an opinion about whether segregation was a better, more sustainable plan for the Black community.
Now, even before they got deep into this, I was wondering why he chose to have this conversation with that young lady. But I guess we're gonna find out. But that was one of my first thoughts. Why did? Because Mark Lamont Hill can be on some bull. So why did Mark Lamont Hill decide to have this conversation with this young lady? But also, let's see what she got to say. But that was my first thought.
Specifically,
yeah.
Or whether we gave up half of the farm for 1/10 of the supplies, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's a fascinating question. I want to bring up. I want y'all listen to this exchange. And as Bullet said, weigh in the comment section. Let's talk about it. And I want to get your take on the other side of this too.
Was the right move. And now I'm separating two things because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there's segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say,
what's going on, DC Cole?
Whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we're talking about, and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
Very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with Black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe. On the other side of, America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial
Look, for 49 years, you're traveling the earth and working with some of the greatest athletes in the history of the world.
If you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options, like within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that? And so part of it is to question what we're being invited into. And so, again, when you think about the example of Finnish being homogenous, nation states are imagined. The national identity is not something that is, God-given. It's not something that, existed for eternity. These identities were created, maintained, made durable over time. And so part of stretching our imagination is to recognize all of the things that have been made up, but made to seem immutable, fixed, intrinsic, including our national sort of identities. And so part of it is really like
right. Integration was
to
for
denaturalize the things that we take for granted as somehow magically operating to make us feel connected to each other, and ask ourselves, how else can we be connected to engender this sense of solidarity where what I want for my kids, I also want for my neighbor's kids. I want for the kids who don't speak English. I want for the kids who are just arriving. And so again, to push ourselves, when you think about expanding our imagination, to make it more embracing of seeming differences that are not intrinsic, that are not something that are inevitable, you know? My sister-in-law lives in Japan. And again, it's one of those places that people think, oh, you know, it's homogenous. It's, you know, from the outside, people think everyone is, you know, a shared identity. Yeah. But Japanese of Korean descent, among many other groups, are treated like shit. You know, they're treated, it's discriminated in so many different areas of life, and education and healthcare. When two people go to marry, sometimes their families do a deep genealogical dive to find any Korean descent in the line before they. And so again, we are so creative in creating hierarchies and distinctions out of nothing, you know? Why can't we channel that creativity to actually work in the opposite direction? If we're doing it to maintain hierarchies and division, perhaps we can do it to engender solidarity and connection, right? And I think it's a choice. When we give up our power and think, oh, this is something happening to us, we have to just navigate this crooked system as it is. I think, you know, that only serves those who are currently benefiting from the status quo. And so
So
but before they get into it, like, once again, that's why you cherry pick from the group of Black people, the best of the best, and help to maintain their systems instead of making sure, because they're not going to put anything in place for us to make sure that we can empower ourselves and be a stronger group of people. So of course they're going to cherry pick and take out the people who are going to help them. That's one of the downfalls of integration is, once again, these Black people are educated under these white systems, and being educated under these white systems, you're right for the picking to go help further these white systems, white educational systems. Then you go into white economic systems and white business systems and all those white structures and stuff. Once again, overhaul education, overhaul religion, start over. If it don't directly benefit us, if it's setting us up to be a benefit to the white power structure, we can't do it.
So much depth and nuance into what she's saying. And if you don't know Ruha Benjamin, read her books, read all of her books. She's a wonderful thinker on abolition, on imagination, on technology.
We lost
she's written several great books, all of which I find very useful and instructive in so many ways. I think beginning with this question.
And the white lady's name is Ruha Benjamin. She's a sociologist at Princeton University. So he invited her into the conversation. Ruha Benjamin, a sociologist from Princeton.
And how can we reimagine the world in ways that don't limit us to a binary choice is a great place to start, right? Because as she said, if you say, well, the choice is either integration or segregation, one of them sounds good, one of them sounds bad, but I think there is more complexity to that. You know, Black folk didn't integrate or fight for integration. We didn't fight to integrate schools, for example, because we thought our IQs would go up if white people were in the room. We did so because we knew books would be there. And we knew there'd be a certain level of protection from the state. So it was always a pragmatic calculation around what the benefits were. It was never a fetishization of difference or of diversity, or particularly racial diversity. And so we always have to kind of hold on to that idea as we think about other possibilities. How do we get the best part of diversity? How do we get the best parts of integration without losing sight of the things that we had when we weren't integrated, like a certain kind of community solidarity, a certain kind of class diversity, a certain kind of institution building ethic? How do we hold on to those things? And for me, figuring out how to get the best of those worlds is the actual answer. Someone is asking a very important question, which is what's the middle ground? Now, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know exactly what that mode is, and Trevor begins with this sort of historical counterfactual of, well, what would happen? Was this a mistake? I.e., what would happen if had we not done this? And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you know, part of what the Supreme Court determined is that separate is not equal in this country. Why? Because it's a white supremacist world.
Well, I mean, so if black people were left, let's say we were left at least 60% alone to build for ourselves, what could we have built for ourselves? At least 60% alone. Because being realistic, we would not have been left alone to build like other groups were left alone. And I think we have to take that into consideration when we're comparing our history and our building of community versus other people. So a Chinatown can be built because nobody's going to come bomb it. A Russian town is going to be built because nobody's going to come bomb it. A Koreatown can be built because nobody's going to come bomb it. You know, all these other ethnic sub cities and things can be built because nobody's going to come and bomb it. But when black people build, white people destroy. I.e., it wouldn't even have to say Tulsa, Wilmington, Ocoee, Rosewood, just a few. So understanding if we build it, we must protect it. So if we were left at least 50 to 60% alone to ourselves, what could we have actually built for ourselves? Mark Lamont Hill, you're an educator. I need you to use your imagination. I'm just saying, I need you to use your imagination as an educator, Mark Lamont Hill. So you mean to tell me you don't think if black people were left at least 50 to 60% alone to build, we couldn't have had something for ourselves? Because when people, we know history shows us when people are left alone to build for themselves, they can build things and they're able to prosper. Come on, man.
We lived in an apartheid nation. And so, like any apartheid nation, separate is never going to be equal. And that's why it was important to never be separate.
Now, make sure something that makes me furious every time I see it. This is a real tax return from someone making $284,972.
But I don't know, where we would be if we'd stayed together. Would we have been able to organize freedom in a different way? Which should we have done what the Nation of Islam wanted to do and what other nationalists wanted to do, which was to completely separate and even designate certain states in the United States as ours. I mean, these are all possibilities. I don't have an answer, but I love the idea of reimagining what was possible and what is possible by saying, hey, even integration is something that we shouldn't take for granted as a good. Is it difficult for you to imagine a world where segregation could be good?
For me?
Because I struggle with it to imagine what that would look like.
So
Hayla, yep.
It's a couple of things.
Go ahead.
One, I want to say that I, like you, I am a product of public school in the 90s. I don't know if you were a product of busing, but I certainly was.
I was, yeah.
Yeah. So what I find interesting, and I'm super interested to get your take on that, because I was literally having this conversation just a week ago. When we're talking about segregation or integration, I do think it's the wrong question. And I'm not surprised. And again, this is all due respect to Mr. Noah, but I'm not really surprised that Trevor Noah would ask the wrong question. And that is all shade, all tea. Anyway, so, but that, I don't think that's the right question, right? Because again, it lives on a binary, and it also has this idea that it's such a fallacy to think that we had some kind of like good school system going, you know what I mean? Access to books that were better, access to shitty books. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we have to reimagine what education is like. I think often about the kids who were bused in from East Chattanooga to where I live. And I feel infinitely better and broader to have gone to a school that was.
But it ain't about you, white girl. This ain't about you, how you feel. You immediately make the conversation about you and how you feel and your experience and all these things. It ain't about you, white girl. It ain't about you. Who gives a damn about your experience? Who give a damn that you finally got a chance to see a black penis for the first time in your life? Who cares? This is about us and how it negatively affected us. See, I knew Mark Lamont here was gonna be on some bullshit when I saw this and he had this white girl, I knew it was gonna be some bullshit. Don't nobody give a damn about your experience, white girl. First of all, we're gonna take our shitty books. We should have took our shitty books and build for ourselves. Nobody give a damn about that. That right there pissed me off. When I saw it, I knew I was gonna scream again. It pissed me off because I feel infinitely better. Who cares? Who cares? How did it affect black people in the long term? Not about you, us. Once again, Mark Lamont Hill, that's why you don't get respected.
Not homogenous at all. But I think all the time about, especially recently, I don't want to say that I've been some like amazing white person my whole life, but I've definitely had thoughts in the last few years thinking about what the inverse of that, how it felt to be bussed from your neighborhood into kind of a hillbilly neighborhood of white folks.
They didn't want to be there.
Gaming where every Friday, all the white dudes show up in camo overalls. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they're going hunting for the weekend. I mean, just the visuals of this. It, like I said, it made me, Nicole, the white lady, right, an infinitely better person to be exposed to tons of different identities. At the expense of what? At the expense of people's safety, their comfort, their ability to learn, their space to learn, their ability to take up space in a learning environment. I feel really grateful that I also had like a lot of black teachers to recognize black people in authority. I think that's something that a lot of white folks miss out on. And
if you like, you know how much more we missed out on that by integrating? You know how many, we just went over how many black teachers lost their jobs, how many black schools were shut down. If that's something you would love to see more of, well, when you love to see those in black spaces, black students in black spaces being taught by black teachers that we created for ourselves, rather than being in these spaces that make the little white girl feel good for being in the class and seeing black people.
in authority.
Yeah.
I mean, right, because we've talked about this. But anyway, I'm saying all this to say that spaces like this, like Night School, which you can support with a wonderful super chat or a super sticker, a donation to the MLH channel or the Cashapp, or all of the wonderful mechanized ways to support this man in his venture to educate the masses. But I think we have to talk about democratizing education. I hate to use that word because it's such a buzzword, but we need to talk about reimagining what education is. So I love that she's talking about expanding our imagination, thinking about what we can create. That has been like, I think, where we're at now, because I mean, girl, it ain't good.
Man, shut up. Shut up. She don't even, shut up. Come on, Mark Lamont Hill, do better, Mark, do better. But that's like I said, three different perspectives on integration, so we can expand our thinking and see what we come away with and what we leave. So yeah, that one I don't get. Once again, the dilemma was either start with inferior resources and build your way up, or go integrate into the white power structure and give up everything. Well, the choice was integrate into the white power structure and give up everything. And that led to us being where we are, us being easily more programmed, we have a white frame of reference, we have a white mindset. We believe that whiteness is the pinnacle of everything. We have to and we have to go to them for resources, because we didn't spend enough time rebuilding our resources after they were destroyed. Because we did build for ourselves, but they were destroyed. And after they were destroyed, we didn't spend the time rebuilding. Even talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know, after Tulsa was rebuilt, they decided to integrate, and that was the real demise to Tulsa. After they rebuilt, it was integrating into white society. Now, once again, giving account to the people who were there and their ideas and their thoughts and the information that they had and what they were going through and the worldview that they had for fighting for integration, taking that into account. They knew what they knew. They had the information that they had. Now, fast forwarding to 2025, 2026, we have the history and the information to look back and say that wasn't a great idea. All right, now how do we build from that? So we know that Black people working with Black people, working for Black people, and making sure Black people have our stuff together, we know that that's what we should be doing. So damn it, let's do it. So we've been on here 2 hours. We've got our brain food. We've been thinking, got things revving up. So let's get back into our communities and build, unite and build, unite and build, unite and build. Let's do these things for ourselves. When we talk about retaking education, I started my On the Shoulders of Giants Black History Saturday schools, retaking education. And we're working on the online component that's going to be coming soon. There's some of the things that I wanted to make sure I contribute to my community, getting in the community, doing things, helping make sure that our children can get education from our lens. Use your gifts, use your talents, use your lanes to get back to your community to help teach the children to be better. But then we have to get together. We have to show the kids how to unite, how to build, how to aggregate our wealth and our resources together so we can be better. It's on us. Ain't nobody gonna do it for us. Nobody gonna save us. This is a team sport. Race is racism, and this is a team sport. And we on the Black team, whether you want to be on the Black team or not. And none of these other people are gonna allow you in their house. And yes, they came in our house and messed up everything. So how we gonna clean it up? That's where we at. Man, I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. This has been a great 2 hours, but I got to go hit the gym. I just started working out yesterday, and I got to get that right. So please take care of yourselves. Take care of your mind, your body, your spirit. Get back into your community and build, connect, unify, 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 build. I love all y'all. Love all y'all. And y'all gonna see me on Monday. I'm going live on Monday. I got something for y'all for Monday. Monday is a holiday. I'm going live on Monday. I don't know what time just yet. I'll let you know. Look out for my community post. Look out for my post because I'll let you know. But I'm finna hit this gym. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I see y'all Monday because I'm going live Monday and Tuesday. So I see y'all Monday. Peace out.